We're going from.
Hi. Hi.
Good evening, everybody.
Right.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Ambit 241. I'm hoping that people can see me, that we're on the speaker view, and I'd like to welcome everybody here. I'm just going to put mine on speaker view. So this is the launch for Ambit 241. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. We've had quite a wait for Ambit 241, of course, because in July we had to put off our issue and delay it until now. What we're really thrilled about is that we've got our competition winners with us here tonight. We've got speakers here tonight. We have a lot of people who are reading their work. We've got videos, and it's just a really wonderful, wonderful issue. It's absolutely packed, and it was really amazing trying to get everything into this issue. Of course, with COVID, we wanted to get together all together, and unfortunately we couldn't. And I'm really, really sad about that, because I was so looking forward to seeing all our friends again and having that community. But the positive thing is tonight is that we have people joining us from all over the world. We've got some people from New Delhi here. We've got some people from California. We've got somebody in the Basque Country. So the good news is that we can actually come together in a way that we couldn't just having the launch in London. So I think we just have to think about that and look about that. Our competition was judged by Fred de Geer, and he also features as a featured poet in the issue. Fred is an amazing Guyanan poet. He lives in Los Angeles and teaches at UCLA, and his book is the Poetry Book Club of the Month, of the winter selection of the Poetry Book Society, so do check it out. Anyway, we've got a video from Fred, and he is going to introduce our competition winners.
Hello, on this special occasion of Ambit's virtual launch of its latest edition, Packed with Riches, with something for everyone. Not least, news of its competition judged by me, Fred de Geer. The entries were of the highest caliber, and I learned a great deal from reading them. As you can see from the commended list of new and established poets, it was not easy to pick the winners. After much thought and deliberation, the top 3 poets in order of appearance are: first, Dante Micheaux; second, S.K. Grout; and third, Roy McFarlane. We'll hear from each poet in that order. Over to Dante.
Hello, everyone. I'm really excited to be joining you and very grateful to Fred for having chosen this poem, and also to Ambit magazine for the competition in general. It's a really beautiful magazine. I've read it in the past and often find myself reading it at the Poetry Library, and I'm very excited to receive the newest copies of this edition. My poem is entitled The Self on Some Meridian. In the newfound quiet, I am larger somehow. Dark spot on a blindingly white century. At the beginning, when the elders are dying, but flower nonetheless. More and more, I search the signs for ancestral wisdom, dreams, birds, which are the messengers of dream, trees, the rooms that the willows make on the bank of a back river, all kinds, though you may have surmised from the aforementioned, the scent of their smoke and air and the sanctuary of deep night. An instrument of living is what I have become, or always was, as this blackness was meant to be deciphered at the end of the last millennium that ended in decadence. What I know is that plague is never resolution, but warning. Having been there when the sentinels of capital fell, and here when they fell again, but with more discretion, I suppose you're right. They all did end in decadence. Only the beautiful boys interrupt my composing, and sparrow song, and cloud drama, and
thank you everyone who's here tonight. Thank you so much as well to Ambit. It's a deep honor to have had my work read by Fred de Gois. Thank you so much. And I'm deeply honored as well to share space with so many amazing poets. This is my poem, Sugar Ore. 1. If you took out all the empty space in our atoms, the human race could fit into the volume of a sugar cube. Would we taste as sweet without our space? Or would we be lackluster, carbohydrates without the flavoring? Cubes are multi-sided and space is dimensional. There should be no limit to the capacity of our brains. 2. Today, we will remove all the space from our atoms to find out if we are sugar cubes. What will the space look like? Will it melt? Perhaps it tastes of memories like a freezer locking away honey, turmeric, and cinnamon to be released upon heat. When I was sad, my grandmother used to make me tea with spoonfuls of demerara sugar and condensed milk. 3. Does a sugar cube taste of hope? Remove hope, we become flat. Remove education, we become melts. What are the stories the dead are not telling us? Can you hear a dragon fly? Stand by the listening post and believe in wings. Do you carry your mother's love? Are you wearing the history of kindness wrapped around you? Will you lick it? 4. Historically, rose water was used in healing. If you carry the sky in your pocket, she won't fall out. I will make us a pot of licorice tea while we wait. Apply calendula to the bruise. I do not hold the answers, but my body is infinite questions. I am listening. Tomorrow we will put back the space in our atoms and become sweet. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, congratulations to Dante, Micheaux, and SK Gant. It's been a privilege to be a part of this, and to be judged by Fred de Gois is such an honor. And many thanks to Ambit and everybody that's turned up. The title is a long title, so here we go. And Aubade, in response to how do you feel in the wake of George Floyd's death? Realizing I'm holding a scream, decibels high enough to crack the fragility of white people. I would not write these lines if it wasn't for a new morning, where canals cut deep enough to make new waters, where coots with chicks fill a nest in a curtain of grass, where dandelions breathe, where dandelions' breath fills the air, where herons walk like deities, heads held high, and Gregory Porter takes me to another place. Take me to the alley. Take me to the afflicted one. This new morning barely cast a shadow. Sun gentle, cajoling me where the river Tame stays true to the old ways. Where the question rings, will things ever change? Where an old black sage who has seen the knee, the choke, the rope around the neck, heard the refrain, I can't breathe, again and again, tells you, I'm tired. I wish for a sun to rise with the same warmth as the sun that rises on you, a sun that shakes hands with the night and bids us well until the next day. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Roy. I'm a little bit shaken, a little bit moved by that. When we came up with the idea of cataclysm as a theme, it was at the beginning of the year, it was in January, and we were thinking climate change, we were thinking Trump. Of course, everything changed after that. COVID, George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, everything changed. And what's been so powerful about this competition is to see that change. Just as the poems were coming in, people were writing about things that were changing every day. And so it had an immediacy about it that we haven't had before in our poetry competitions. So thank you very much indeed. And congratulations to everybody. We're going to hear from some of our poets. We have a top 10 after the top winners, commended poets. So we're going to hear from some of them. We're going to see a film from Guinevere Clark. Then we're going to go to live readings from Julie IRIGARAY and Ben STRAK. So enjoy.
Another country. The rain stopped. You were leaving for another country. I thought of our child. Walked the city beach in the last autumn heat. Sand was thicker, radiant like Indian gold. Racks of fireworks burnt black on June's hearts, pumpkins dumped still bright by the bins. Drain waste, ripples, rain heavy through shale, the plaited scars of tractors. I have no sunglasses to shade this. No easy answers for our sun, just the silver-lit water to meet, to consider the edge of. A single cargo ship on sea's rim, I see the lone engine room, fractured creatures in the spin, cast heavy as bone to strata. Impossible journeys, deathly waters. and in the crags of khaki sewage rolling on the slope, a condom wriggles, phantom pearl, turning a tear to tide.
You can see you doing that, by the way. So coming up, we have Julie Uruguay, right?
It's fine. So I'm really grateful to be here tonight with all of you from all over the world. And when I saw this year's theme for the competition, I immediately thought, okay, I'm going to submit a poem about cataclysm, but also about resilience after several cataclysms, because I think we all need it. So this poem is the story of my great-grandfather, Krieg. Despite his wooden leg, my great-grandfather always volunteered to climb up trees and pluck cherries or chestnuts. He was the most agile of the family, as light as a sparrow. During the Second War, he was the one hiding legs of ham in the forest by hanging them on the highest trees so the Germans wouldn't confiscate them. My great-grandfather was the only one in the village who received the newspaper every day. He paid for the subscription with his veteran disability pension. When the gangrene spread and his leg was cut off for the second time, my great-grandfather begged the surgeon not to amputate it too high. He was a farmer, and no woman would want to marry an invalid. I found his file in the military archives. The army officer wrote after his amputation, leg cut 2/3 high, constant the equipment, imaginary pain of the amputee. After the Great War, my great-grandfather inherited the family farm at the top of a steep hill, a barren plot of land, a Basque wuthering heights nobody wanted, let alone someone with a missing leg. The region was occupied during the Second War. One summer, my great-grandfather and his son moved their cattle to higher pastures for the transhumance. They reached a point where the Germans blocked the road. As his son was trying to negotiate their passage, the middle-aged officer pointed at his leg and uttered, "Krieg?" My great-grandfather didn't speak a word of German, and the officer didn't speak a word of French, so he repeated several times, "Krieg? Krieg?" The officer's face lit up. He gestured towards the wooden leg, patted his own chest. "Krieg, Krieg, Krieg." A magic word my great-grandfather deciphered in the German's eyes and translated as, "Yes, I was there too, 30 years ago. I was buried alive. They dug me up, but my friends are still eating cornflower roots. I lost my job and my fiancé too." My great-grandfather hesitated, then finally nodded. The officer barked orders at the soldiers, who let my great-grandfather and his son pass with their cattle to let them graze in peace. Thank you very much.
Hi there, hi there, everybody. It's a great privilege to be here tonight in such august company. Thanks to Fred, thanks to Ambit, thanks for everyone for coming. I'm now going to read my poem, The Sixth Day. It's a very short poem. There are dead bees in the piano, making it sound wrong, and there are dry dead bees lying slightly opened in the hall. And on the street, there are crushed dead bees in drifts, too many to sweep. And the sky has lost its usual hum and is milk white, and the flowers bloom unvisited and close at night. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've got the last three of our commended winners. We've got a video from Catherine Selby. April Yee will then read live for us. And then we also have a video from Monica Can.
Actually, the pre-prepared videos, tried playing it, it's upside down and I haven't yet figured out how to flip it so it's the right way up. So we might have to return to that one in a moment, I'm afraid.
April, would you be ready to go live now?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we'll come back. And Mike, let me see if I can play the video from this end at the right way, okay?
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying hearing everybody's poems. And this poem, I was thinking about the concept of cataclysm and how often cataclysm can lead to a kind of forgetting. And then later memory can resurface, and that can be a sort of mini cataclysm. And that sort of cyclic nature of forgetting and remembering lends itself well to the sestina format. So this is a sestina that touches on difficulties with breathing, so either due to natural disaster or man-made disaster, or also the current situation. This is KOPATCHI, Pripyat, Vilcha. In the cloud that drifts online, I discover an image of myself, notebooked. Remember, I toured Ukrainian villages in April, the anniversary of their before and after, the date they understood dirty and clean, touched new energies released into air. My recollection floats ungraspable as air. The high-res photograph does not recover dead actions to the hippocampus, now clean as a blank notebook sheet. I remember the detailed email from my father after I said I'd go to Chernobyl that April. He cited a scientific study. Dear April, mushrooms exposed to soil and air can remain radioactive for years after. For breakfast, the local hotel covered pasta in mayonnaise and dismembered hot dogs. I also half recall the clean white shirt of an engineer. He'd keep clean our air in a then future, now past April, with a steel sarcophagus to stop the embers from dispersing particles in global air. His metal tons could fully cover the Statue of Liberty, he intoned, after a meal of many courses. I marveled after how he kept his white shirt so pristine clean. A visiting Japanese mother, face covered, gripped 2 Geiger counters in April and a half since Fukushima blew the air. She earthquaked her body to remember. Actually, I use records to pretend remember. I Google articles I must have written after that trip, read emails maybe sent from aircraft raining pollutants over unclean nimbuses. I trigger cruelest April, places where every route was covered in irradiated air and nuclear embers. After, I wash my consciousness clean, allow the cover to contain all of April. Thank you.
I haven't muted on me.
I think there's problems with them. And I am
I'm going to rewind on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Catherine Selby, and I'm going to be reading my poem, Paradise. Paradise is based on the 2018 Californian wildfires that nearly destroyed the town of Paradise and killed over 85 people. I was a bit apprehensive about reading this poem myself. The poem's written in the first person, and I am obviously not American. But then at the same time, I feel like we have a tendency to think or feel that cataclysmic events are things that happen to other people or something that we see on the news. So I'm hoping that my Lancashire accent will add another layer to the poem. Okay. Paradise. There's paradise in the ash that falls on my shoulder. It breaks, then disintegrates against my bra strap. Flakes of brick mark my skin and smudge. Pieces of fire scatter on the backdraft, scorch to split-end fields of hair. I pull my dressing gown over. The car is hot to touch. It chokes. The cat paces in the back. Daylight has already fallen and spread over the ground. Normal shapes disintegrate. The windshield wipers won't wipe smoke. But the stoplight on the highway is clear as day. Still on rotation, and as we get nearer, I want to get out and lick it. The trees on both sides of the road are fire. The weight of gold arcs overhead. It's still snowing ash and coal. The traffic is escaping along the exit road, but there's no way to know when you cannot see what's ahead. And you don't know if it's you that's dead or just the people behind you.
We'll now have a video from Monica Camp.
And my poem is called Harbour. I want to say thank you to Ambit magazine and Fred Diaguiar for choosing my poem to be a part of this event. Harbour is about my home, Hong Kong. Harbour. Bitter melon, braid the umbilical cord, measure it down the cowering of our spines. Is it longer than the harbour that shrinks as we grow? Let it swim, embrace your neck, ready to war and win like a dubbed hero with drunken fists, grappling air, saying, swaying with pursed lips to kiss it all goodbye before the body surfaces. Bitter melon, braise the lamb, brought up with superstition and the family frown kissed to its forehead, succulent, inquisitive, but ready to serve. Soaked without umbrellas, the uncles arrive, touching your belly as they pass through the door, staining the floor red, a display of their disdain. Still, the monsoon meal is chewed between bitter breath. Low-hanging toothpicks stay loyal to their lips, searching for fruit and arguments to pierce, to point with 5 fingers, to pick at with the heart, to remember the night that we were handed back like an old casserole dish, stained down the sides. We could tell you had eaten well and overstayed your welcome, and like this we continue until the pomelo is peeled. Bitter melon, braid the umbilical cord long enough to let you down against the straight backs of our city. Bamboo field built to last. To have climbed its crutches is to fall on skyscraped knees, and to live life below neon in the eyes of the harbour. Squinting is a reflection of doubles. It overflows like happiness, you're told. To hold both is to end on a high, but the tables turn, and you are sewn to your seat, your eyes sewn to the plate. You will birth silence.
Thank you very much. Thank you to all our commended poets and winners. That's fantastic. We're now going to move on to the other sections of Ambit. And of course, our art section is really busting out this time. We've got so many artists featured in this. Olivia Bax, who is our art editor, co-art editor, couldn't be here tonight because she is deinstalling and reinstalling her Mark Tanner Prize show. And so we've given her the night off. So, but we've got Sarah Kate Wilson and Rose Davey, and they are co-art editors. What I love about Ambit is that we can invite different editors in and see some of their world. And part of the really good art piece in Ambit is that we've got an interview between the two art editors, and it's a great insight into their work. So introducing Sarah Kate Wilson.
Hey, thank you so much for having us, Bryony. And just to say a huge thank you to Ambit and for pulling this off during lockdown. Was no easy feat. And although we would be together tonight in a pub, we're not, but this is just thank you so much for making this possible. So I'm Sarah Kate Wilson and I work with Rose Davey. We're both artists, and Rose is going to talk about a project that we've been working on recently. So myself and Rose, we work together as an artist collective, and we've been curating projects now for about a decade working together. And our artist collective name is Show Off. And this is because we like to show off our own work and the work of other people. So it does what it says on the tin. So we've guest edited the art section of this issue of Ambit, and a huge thank you for inviting us to do that. It was lovely to have something to focus on during lockdown that gave us a way to keep, you know, thinking about deadlines, thinking about work, and thinking about talking about our practices as well. So when Ambit approached Rose and I, and it was Olivia really that we've been working with, we wanted to honour the ethos of Ambit magazine. And Ambit over the years has supported the work of artists at all stages of their careers and offers a peek into the private world of an artist studio, but also an artist's practice. And they do this through interviews and photographs. So Rose and I thought we'll begin by interviewing each other. So we decided that we would send each other a list of questions by email and promised each other that we would open that email and respond immediately without editing ourselves, without deleting anything, just warts and all. So the issue, as you will read, is quite an honest and from the gut interview. And I think that's something that was really precious to us. So thank you for allowing us that opportunity. But I think during COVID, it was like, well, nobody's watching us right now, so we can just do this and we can talk to each other really honestly. So that was a really refreshing thing to do. Alongside this, we've also included an interview that's just made up of images, and the images have been gleaned from a WhatsApp group. This WhatsApp group was formed through a group of friends who all met at the Slade School of Art in 2008, where we were studying our MAs in painting and sculpture. This group of friends are still practicing artists, and Ian Hales is on the front cover of Ambit. Maybe Bryony can hold it up for us. So as a group of friends, we have this WhatsApp group, and there we share images which kind of sum up the humour of our friendships, but also honesty, support, and really trying to find ways to keep each other motivated. So there's some of the images that Bryony's holding up. We are artists, we do communicate through images, and it seemed to be the best way to convey how we communicate and keep our network going. One of the other pages in the magazine is from a comic strip from another art magazine, which was set up in the 70s called Art Right. It was a newsprint art magazine, and it was published in New York between 1973 and 1978. Thanks, Bryony. Bryony's holding it up there. We came across this magazine in the UCL collections. The Slade School of Art is part of UCL. So Rose and I would often visit the special collection there to see all these amazing artworks and editions and issues and journals and books that they hold there by artists. And we were really fascinated by a particular issue of Art Right called Painting. Rose and I are both painters. The magazine shows a male painter in New York working in his studio, struggling to make work, but also having glowing and growing success at the same time, but then ricocheting back into what am I doing? What am I doing with my life? Why am I making work? Why am I making art? And really this WhatsApp conversation that Rose, myself, and our friends from the Slade have is quite similar to that. We have lots of highs and lows, and we kind of network together to share ideas and humor and thoughts. So on that note, Rose and I wanted to talk about a project we've been working on recently. And really it's underpinned by our ethos to always bring art into contact with new audiences in new ways. And however serious artwork might be, it's always really important to find ways to show humour, politics, to discuss very important, very serious things, but try to find ways to shed new light on those things as well. And it's also really important to us to find ways to break down the hierarchies between white cube spaces and public spaces. And as our collective does this, and so Rose is going to talk about our most recent project. And after this, we're going to show you a short film to give you a little insight as to what we have been doing. But thank you again for having us. And although you can't see it, you will have the magazine with you soon and you'll be able to read what we've been doing. Thank you, Bryony.
Hi everyone. So the front cover, as Sarah explained, relates to Show Off, which is a project, thank you Bryony, which we're going to show you shortly via film, but just to give a bit of an introduction. So the idea of Show Off is that it takes the anxiety away from experiencing art. The audience can sit back, relax as the artworks are brought to them by a team of art handlers who place work upon, within or in front of a stage designed by Gary Woodley, which moves to accommodate each artwork's needs. And this method of display removes the white wall, it removes the plinth, and it removes the polished concrete floor that artists have become so comfortable with. The concept of Show Off conjures ideas of the cattle market, the debutante ball, the catwalk, and also the auction house. And artworks are manhandled, they reveal their personality of material through weight, texture, and physical presence, as artworks are literally heaved upon stage, laid out, dragged, pulled, pushed, in whichever way we can get them on stage safely. So Show Off originally occurred in 2014, and we were very lucky to stage it in March of this year, just before lockdown happened, when it was generously hosted in Battersea for us by Cook Latham Gallery. Each time we have had the pleasure of working with artists across all generations, from those at various points in their career, some still at art school, some who have won the Turner Prize. And I know some have joined us tonight, so thank you for them, and a big thanks to all the artists that we've worked with over the years. And the great thing about Show Off is there's no hierarchy of works. Each piece arrives upon the stage and has its moment in the spotlight. So we would love to do it all again, and we're hoping once COVID calms down, we'll find new spaces inside, outside, in this country, perhaps elsewhere, and we can bring this fantastic project to lots more audiences. But in the meantime, here's a snippet of it. Here is Show Off. Roll film.
Thank you very much indeed. And you can see a documentary about this. It's going to be a short documentary, and see the film again on our website. So thank you very much to all the participants. That was great. We're going to move on to fiction now. Kate Pemberton has been our fiction editor for a while. We've also got Jeff Nicholson on the line here, so welcome to him too, who's our former editor. But Kate has been with Ambit for many years, and she's a stalwart of our organisation, and I'd like to welcome her.
Thank you, Bryony. I've got workmen next door, all of a sudden banging in the background, so I'm sorry if you can hear that, which is classic timing. But thank you, Bryony. We're really excited to have two fiction readers tonight, Julian George and Gary Budden, and they're going to read extracts of fiction from Ambit 241. But before that, I'd just like to say thank you to all the fiction editors on Ambit. They work really, really hard. We get about 800 stories a year to read, and we whittle this down to about 20 or 25 stories for the magazine. And we read many of these stories twice or three times, especially when we're in the long list and the short list. So the fiction readers do a really, really good job. And I just want to say thank you to Matisse, to George, to Charlotte, to Sagal, and to Gwen. And thank you also if you have submitted your work to us. We take all the fiction completely unsolicited. We're very, very proud to do this. We love to hear from you. So please do keep thinking of Ambit when you're sending out your stories. All of this process brings us to the people that have got into Ambit 241. We've got 6 writers, Romy Jones and Virginia Hartley with short flash fiction. Flash is a really, really difficult form to master. And they've sent us some videos which you're going to be able to access afterwards. So thank you to them for those. We've got longer pieces, one from Sayantan Ghosh, who's here in the audience, I think, and one from Damayanti Viswas, Sayantan's David Bowie obsessed Bengali teenager stole all of our hearts. And Damayanti wrote about a murderous brick, which obviously surprised us enormously and is a brilliantly conceived piece. And both these pieces have been illustrated, one by Siddhi Gupta and the other by Days Rowe, brilliantly interpreted. And I really recommend that you get Ambit 241 and you have a look at those pieces, read those stories and see how those illustrations sit within them. And coming to our readers tonight, so Julian George, he is publishes articles on music and on film. He writes short fiction and he's writing a novel, and his piece came in, it's largely dialogue, and absolutely entertained us and uplifted us. So he's going to read first, and then we're going to come to Gary Budden, whose beautifully paced piece looks at where nature meets human nature, which is one of Gary's themes. He has a novel out and a short fiction collection out from Dead Ink. His stories have won or been nominated for and should have won all sorts of awards, and we're thrilled that they're both here tonight. So we're going to go first to Julian and then we're going to go to Gary. Welcome, Julian.
Hi. The setting is Prague in 1913, and Franz Kafka and Max Brod, who are very close friends, are off for their holiday, and they're on the train. They're going to Italy, or near to Italy. Franz was scribbling away, head down. The passing scenery passed him by. "What are you writing?" "A letter to my father." "Are you still writing that thing? You've been writing that ever since I've known you." "I've got a lot to get off my chest." Max was about to make a crack, then thought better of it. "Why don't you ever write your mother?" There was barely a flicker from Franz. "It doesn't have to be a novella, Franz. Drop her a line. Tell her you're feeling fine." Franz erased something from his letter. "Tell her what you're seeing, if you can look at what you're missing, if you can be bothered. Forests, fields, mountains, lakes, cities, towns, one-horse towns, hovels, petticoat junctions. It's the same everywhere." "It's not the same everywhere. We're on our way to the warm south. Care to?" "I forget. I know he loved Rome. Those poems, oof. But of course he loved Rome," smirked Franz. "It's a disease with you. Only the perverse fantasy can still save us from Eckermann. You're telling me
Look, send your father one of these postcards. It'll curl his hair. Nothing can curl that Franz Josef of his. I say, Max, where'd you get this? Through opals. Most precious gem, said Franz, inspecting the image. Used to be amethyst. Change of name. Police crackdown. A pearl, this one, Franz said, sliding a postcard into his breast pocket. A bit like Hansi. The body, not the face. Really? Let me see. What? So you can get ideas? Not on your life. I just want to see if it looks like Hansi. You've only seen her with her clothes on. Damn it if I'm going to let you see her with her clothes off. But it's not Hansi, Franz. You just said it looks like Hansi. The body, not the face. Do you always repeat what others say? Do you always repeat what others say? That could be neurological. Let me look. Get away. Don't be childish. Speak for yourself. If you're the one who's acting childish. Max stuck his hand in Franz's breast pocket. What are you doing? Got it. Give it back, Max. Not till I've had a good look. You saw it before you gave it to me. Not really. Franz made a grab for the postcard. Max snatched it back. In the struggle that ensued, the unveiled temptress was rent in twain. Now look what you've done. If you'd let me look. Hansi ripped apart, thanks to Max the Ripper. Not to worry, old chap, there's more where that came from, said Max, rummaging through a legal folder he kept for such emergencies. But first, a bullet with his own china shop. Voila, said Max, producing an equally dirty postcard. Franz inspected the image closely. Nice, eh? Looks a little like my sister. No, really? Max sort of fancied Franz's sister. He sort of fancied everyone's sister. The face, not the body. I don't know about the body. She is my sister. Can I see? No, said Franz, slipping the postcard into his breast pocket. That's all she wrote. Sorry, hello? Oh, that's it. I really wanted to read the ending, but it's too long, so anyhow. I don't know. Thank you anyway. It was very kind of you, and I'm pleased that I hope people laugh. You know, it's supposed to be funny. So anyway,
thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank
you, Julian. Fantastic. And yes, we all want to read the end. I really recommend everyone does. So please buy the copy of Ambit 2 for 1 and you can read the end. Lovely. So we're going to go now over to Gary.
Okay. Hello. So I'm going to read just the first section from my story in Ambit's Passage Migrants. So let's get cracking. In the last month, there was nothing left of him. Something looked at Denise from inside an emaciated skull, its blotched skin stretched taut over yellow bone. It was not her father. The sensations of the place are still vivid. Diluted sugar in weak and milky tea. Ancient men and decrepit women, dozing in blazing central heating, the odour of failing bodies cut through with a sharp stab of disinfectant. She can still smell the faint floral perfume worn by the kind nurse who attended the thing, wearing her father's yellow skin. And the sensations, too, of the street in London onto which she stepped after leaving the hospice for the final time. The glassy shudder of a routemaster bus, the wet hack of an old man's cough, the chatter of teens at the bus stop as they mock fought and took selfies for reasons unclear, the smell of exhaust fumes and grey patient drizzle. Rush hour traffic she imagined like a swell, water at high tide. A black curlew cried out on the mudflats beyond the salt marsh where ridged mud spread out for half a mile at low tide. The bird's call was like a piercing piccolo played underwater. It was hunting for the squirming life that existed in the silt, lugworms whose coiled castings littered the mudflats like temporary cairns. It was 5:45, early morning. Denise stood in Sanderling's kitchen, the windows open to let in the freshness of the late spring morning and the cries of the tidal birds. She listened to the pathetic bleating of lambs, the lower noises of adult sheep. It was lambing season for the small long-wool flock grazing on the marsh behind the cottage, the saltgrass, the samphire, giving the meat a unique and desired flavour. The majority of the meat was exported to France. It was unloved here. And then the steaming whistle of a coffee pot on the old rusted hob. It reminded her of a Victorian child's fantasy of a train leaving a station. She took it off the heat, poured herself a small amount before diluting. And Danny had bought this mocha pot in Verona 5 years previous in a store close to the castle overlooking the river, one of their first holidays together. and think about the long, slow process to get to this moment. Italian contact with North Africa, the perception that lasted for centuries that coffee was an Arab affectation to be consumed in specialist outlets in Venice, a thing foreign, thrilling, dangerous, until the 19th century and the creation of new technologies, and then the slow creep north to this place on the Thames estuary and beyond. The light of dawn was creeping slowly over the marsh, darting on the shingle, illuminating the mudflats so they resembled briefly carved furrows on silver. Denise was new to the marshes and this coast with its ever-shifting tide line. The orange glow of rusted machinery sinking into the mud of the salt marsh at dusk was novel, the metal bones of industry and remains of redundant jobs, a quiet revelation, and she could only guess at their function, but she knew from her reading that the marshes were once home to munitions factories and gunpowder works over a century ago, during a cataclysmic war, they say, changed the course of history. An event known as the Great Explosion blew a hole in the salt marsh, leaving shrapnel and twisted metal for the curious to find for decades, centuries after. Blow a hole in me, she thought, explode this tiny life. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Gary. And it's great. Thank you very much as well to Julian George. Fiction is such an important part of Ambit, and it's really great to see such different work coming in. We're now going to go to poetry. Unfortunately, Andre Navasihili couldn't be with us tonight from California, but I'm very excited that we've got Romelin Ante and Kostya Solakis with us, who co-edited, who are deputy co-editors on this issue. I'm also delighted to announce that they will take over as poetry editors from Andre when he leaves us in January. So a huge welcome to Romelin and Kostya.
Thank you. Thank you, Bryony. Good evening. My name is Romelin Ante. I'm Deputy Poetry Co-Editor of Ambit. Like Bryony said, Andre couldn't be with us tonight, so myself and my Deputy Co-Editor Kostya Cholakis will introduce the poetry section. We'd like to first congratulate all our winners from the poetry competition, especially Dante, SK, and Roy, and all the commended poets. What gift you have given us tonight. Thank you for your readings. Ambit's mission is to bring you work that you won't have seen before and to cast our nets as widely as possible to shed light on significant voices from around the world. And we couldn't be prouder of our offerings in Ambit 241. So over to you, Kostya.
Thank you, Roma. Hi, everyone. I'm Kostya Cholakis, Deputy Poetry Co-Editor at Ambit. It's quite difficult to say that all in one go, so I'm glad that Roma and I are going to be poetry editors soon. It's great to be celebrating a new issue of Ambit after 6 tumultuous months. It's a shame we can't meet live, but this seems to be a great event. So many people have joined, so thank you for coming tonight. As far as Ambit 241 is concerned, we've got some great, important poetry included in this issue from a diverse range of voices, and we couldn't be more proud of it. In Ambit 241, we have a sequence of poems by our poetry competition judge, Fred Degas, and also in this issue, you can read poems by Freya Almontaster, Hala Alian, Caleb Femi, Jane Hirschfield, David Harsand, Adam Lowe, and Ron Villanueva, among others. It's a joy to say that we are joined live by 3 poets who are included in Ambit 241. You're going to hear from them in a minute. They are STEPH Morris, CYNTHIA Miller, and ELEANOR Penny. And after that, we're also going to have a few recordings from FANG WANG, Ioannis Kalkounos, Joy Manasiotis, Sean O'Brien, Natalie Lynn Balderston, Romy Jones, and Virginia Hartley. Enjoy.
Snails deserve sympathy and glowing odes the way tanks do,
Consider smallpox. Tanks were modelled on them, also bulldozers and Daleks. They echo the creeping low brought on by rain. They live off my misery. Their steady menace is Iago's, Stalin's. Closer to home, the approach of the top dog and his heavies down a corridor. People are shocked at what I do to them, what any gardener does. Crunch them underfoot, bisect with secateurs, squash them in my fingers, throw rocks, hold flowers in their path, chant, yell, paint banners, load slingshots, and get back on with life as best I can. Thank you. Thank you to everyone at Ambit. Enjoy the rest of the launch. Cheers.
Hi guys, I'm really grateful to be in this issue and excited to be in such wonderful company. So I'm going to be reading a little lockdown sonnet called Eurydice Video Calls Her Lover in Lockdown. Seeing each other doesn't count on Skype. We don't break any divine rules. Look all you want. Everyone here is on a long distance call, speaking to someone slipping out of memory. He shows me the tiny succulent he thought was a goner, and his hands are gorgeous. A suggestion of palm on screen holding it, a red flower on a leggy plant surging towards light. One etiolated thing looking at another. I want you to hang up, defy the gods, touch me. I'm downright ravenous. You think it's bad up there? Baby ghosts just pass through each other, yearning, yearning, yearning. Enough of seeing your frankly absurd jawline through video. I want you to carry me bridal style out of here, or fireman lift, I'm not picky. Are you still wearing your favorite cologne? I want so badly to smell it on your skin. Thank you.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. It's a complete joy to be published in a magazine I've been reading for years now, and was one of the first poetry magazines I actually ever picked up. So it's really a joy to be virtually here with you all this evening. This is a poem from my forthcoming pamphlet with Flipped Eye, and it's called Mercy. Mercy is the time we write letters and none of them need burning. When I draw a pig, the pig is brought to my table, laughing on the cusp of an apple. Giddy aeroplanes stuck with steeple twist against the sky like beetles pinned through the stomach to a blue collecting card. Churches shiver pinkly out here on the moortop, flat gum pink, wallpaper pink, cat's eye pink. We are gathering the scraps thrown over the high fence dividing churchyard from the road. Busted bottles, unstoppered, old receipts. It is something like praying. It is something like chasing rabbits from the dirt, hanging them broke-necked in the shop front for later, in case. In the Doggerland, the frost, I sit picking lice from my hair. I am trying to cling like they do, to the warmth, blood hungry, to laugh like a pig laughs on the dinner table, choking on the green fist of an apple. Pale, wheat-coloured women separated from their shoes, pad the shallow grass indifferent. If I told you it was summer, watching them you might believe me. They talk galactic, run ragged, fear nothing. Stretch their knotted bodies out under a strip of sun. Pile their trolling nets, their whistles by the door. Talk about homegoing the way oars talk to the jealous water. I recognize the water in their voices. They show us the small hairs on their fingers. Lick their eyeballs if they have to moisten them. For days after they came, Across the blue hill, small fires sprung up in the night. Burn this letter soon before you come to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our live poets. I wish we could see you face to face, but you really can touch us with your poetry, even though we're on Zoom. So thank you very much indeed. Now, we've had some videos from a lot of different people who were included in Ambit, and unfortunately we don't have time to see everybody read. So we've done a short promo of the other people that you can see in Ambit. And what we'll be doing is over the next month, we'll be releasing those on our website, on our social media channels, so that you can enjoy lots of readings from Ambit 241 throughout the months, the 3 months that it's out. So I'd like to thank everybody who participated and everybody who sent things in, and we'll watch the promo and then I'll wrap it up with Kirsty.
Strap, slap, trap, track, tram, pram, pram, pram.
24 ways to be holy. On death days, kneel 3 times before you eat.
Androgynous figures in lipstick. The seeds of childhood bloomed. Superheroes are weight blood test results.
The moment she feels that she has finally found and is pursuing an idea, which can be almost immediately, or maybe a little or even a considerable while after she sits down to write, she will make sure to abandon it, so that when she returns to it later, it no longer makes any sense to her and appears to be going nowhere.
The shirt of Nessus imagines a situation akin to those of the July plotters after the failure to assassinate Hitler in July 1944, though it's carefully not very specific about who these people are.
Dry skin of her fingers brushing cool hemispheres of garnet, jade, the cut surfaces of rubies, emeralds, the air rushing past, whispering as her hand lifted, left the handle and its beautiful density, its worked surface.
Doubled. The refugees doubled.
Hi, dear friends there, and dear editors of Ambit. Thank you so much for the new issue in this autumn. I'm so happy to join the celebration here on our campus in China.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for doing that. I mean, it is amazing. We were doing the contributors' copies today. We have copies going to New Delhi. We have people in Singapore. We have people in China, in Europe. It is an amazing global issue, this issue. And I want to say thank you to everybody from everywhere who is sending in, because we really want to read your work and we really enjoy reading your work. I know it's very hard to get into Ambit. I know people try again, but we do welcome everybody. I have to make a special welcome today to Kirsty Allison, who has come on to Ambit as our managing editor. And she's really been thrown in at the deep end because there's a lot going on at Ambit. There are a lot of systems to learn. There's lots to do. And then we had to put this together at the last minute. So I'm so grateful that she's come on board. I'd like her to say a few words. I'd also like to say thank you to Mireille Fauchon also, who did the illustrations in Ambit, because she did a great job. And our superhero, our secret superhero, Mike Smith, who this afternoon came completely to the rescue to Kirsty and I, because we were having trouble with our rehearsals. But anyway, over to Kirsty and welcome.
Thank you, Bryony. It's an absolute pleasure to kind of actually have a paid job in poetry that I am going to hopefully succeed with and make Ambit bigger. That's kind of what I'd like it to be, and spread the word of poetry, really, and kind of make it a lot easier for people to have the opportunity that Ambit gave me. Because if I explain kind of my journey with Ambit, I used to DJ. When I was DJing with Irvine Welsh, I was DJing around the world. I was having a lot of fun. And I was also writing, and I've always been a writer. I've been published as a music journalist since I was a teenager, but I had been secretly writing fiction and working on a novel. So I sent it in anonymously, and Jeff Nicholson, who was a fiction editor at the time, he pulled me out of the slush pile. And that was when I first had fiction published. And it was a really big deal for me, because I obviously, you know, want to be a writer. So the this was the edition that I was first in, and I'd written a short story called Lila, and then I had to read it, and I'd never read before publicly, and I was terrible. I think Jeff will be able to explain that too. But since then I've had other work published in Ambit too, and I'm very proud to have been part of it. And what it did for me was it provided me with a home away from, that was kind of beatnik and jazz and family, and I just felt a lot of love from Ambit. So if I can extend that further, I mean, since then I set up my own thing, Cold Lips, and I've performed on the stage with Thurston Moore, with John Cooper Clarke. Internationally, I've opened the Combinanza Festival. I do a lot of performance, and I've got music coming out and all of that. And a novel is finally being published with Wrecking Ball next year. And I just did my own collection of poetry. So I'm kind of busy in this world. And I've also worked in media for the whole time. So what's been beautiful about kind of joining Ambit in lockdown has been it being like an art school, and to lose the media shenanigans that have kind of guided my life. So I'm super excited to be a part of Ambit, and I want to thank Bryony for being an amazing guide, and she's been very, very good kind of introducing me to the way all of this works, and the team are amazing. It's a joy to have people who are actually really good at what they do, and doing it for love and for the future of poetry, so, and fiction and art and illustration. And for me, you know, I've got all the back copies of Ambit here, and it's just a joy to work through, and I can't wait to get started on taking it to new places. So yeah, fun times. Thanks, Bryony. That's it.
So yeah, no, so in January we're going to be making some big announcements about Ambit, about the future of Ambit, and we really hope that you come on this journey with us. I want to say thank you to everybody who has participated tonight, all the editors who worked so hard, everybody who's tuned in, competition winners, and people who couldn't be here. So thank you to everybody. We're going to actually unmute everybody. Is that what we were going to do, in case anybody wanted to have a chat? I'm sort of interested where people are calling in from, but I'm going to give it over to Kirsty, as she's the DJ, and she can moderate that. You can buy Ambit online. You can buy it in, there are a few bookstores that are now open, but we hope that you'll join us and support this issue. It's fabulous. There we are. I feel like Vanna White. There we go.
I'm trying to do a multiple unmute here, but I don't know if my skills.
All right. Well, we'll have to do it by square. I'll help.
Thanks.
Oh.
It's really weird hearing poetry and not hearing rounds of applause. I found that really strange.
Yeah, I think we can unmute and everybody can give a big round of applause.
Well done, everyone.
Well done.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for putting it together.
Hey, Jill Sheridan.
Hey, I'm in Norfolk. This was great, everybody. Thank you.
Everybody put on gallery view, and then you're going to see a lot of people.
All right.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow. Thank you for supporting Ambit, everyone.
Yeah. Look at everyone.
Yeah.
Brilliant, Eva. So good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And especially our New Delhi contingent. There are people here listening in from New Delhi, which I think might be a first for Ambit, which is great. We've got a lovely story, actually. The story from New Delhi, the illustrator, Micheaux, found an illustrator who also lived in New Delhi. And it was a great match, wasn't it, Micheaux?
Yeah, it's just one of those perfect moments where, I mean, you know, I feel like I'm always given 2 fantastic bits of writing to find illustrators for every issue, sincerely. But this time round, there was just such a natural partnership that I was lucky enough to know this illustrator and was like, I know who'd be good for this piece. And, you know, it just so happened that, you know, they're living in the same city, in the same place, and could understand one another's work creatively. And it was an easy job for me this time. It was easy. And, you know, Days also did a fantastic job with balancing the brick as well. But there was quite a special union, I think, between Siddy and Cyantan. Yeah, I wasn't sure if I was going to pronounce that right, so forgive me.
Well, maybe I'm not pronouncing it right, but I hope so. Yeah. And Siddy gave, I think she either wants to give or she's already given him the original artwork.
Yeah, I was CC'd into a lot of very nice emails with people corresponding and admiring each other's work professionally, and isn't that just that's what we need right now, isn't it? We're so far away from each other.
And the same thing had happened to me with a piece of fiction that Jeff Nicholson and Martin Bax put in of mine in Ambit, and Charles Shearer illustrated it. And he gave me the original drawing, and it was just such an amazing thing. And he makes his own frames, and he framed it. And I had it up on my wall, I still do. And about 3 years later, I was looking at it, and I suddenly understood a whole level of my story that I literally hadn't understood at the time I had written it, which is a whole part of psychology that I hadn't gone down into yet, that he had seen in the piece. So illustration is really, really, really powerful. Yeah, the interpretations can take it elsewhere. It's really good. So thank you, Micheaux, for being a brilliant illustration editor.
Oh, thank you, my pleasure, always.
We've also got people tuning in from New Zealand. Fantastic. I mean, actually, you know, we all need to have, I don't have a glass of wine.
Can you hold up the brick?
I'll drink for you.
The brick.
Okay.
Yeah,
hold up the brick illustration.
A glass of wine for me. Hang on a second. I'm the only one who has the copies. So.
Hello, look at that. Smash.
Yeah.
It's a murderous brick.
So
be ready.
I'd also like to give a shout out to our local postmistress, who is opening up early, especially for me tomorrow at 8:30, so that we can get all the contributor copies out, because we've got so many. So I'd like to say thank you to Brancaster Village Hall Post Office.
Bryony, that reminds me, they were outside Martin Bax's house, and all the old Ambit team can remember this. Well, there happened to be a post box. It was just there at the bottom of the path, and we would wait for the postman with literally whole bags. Mireille's nodding, Mike's nodding, whole bags of Ambits to go, and he would just sort of shake his head. And we bought him beer every Christmas, big crate of beer to say thank you. Because if he wasn't on schedule, other people would say, "Oh no, it's more than my job's worth. I'm not going to take it."
No. But our local post office really rely on Ambit. We are their biggest customer, and in our village, so we're very proud to do that. So that's where I'll be tomorrow morning. So I hope you all enjoy your copies. Again, thank you to everybody for coming. It's really been a pleasure, and I'm just so glad it all worked out so well. Heart love to everybody. Stay safe. I hope next time in January we can meet in person. I think what I've decided after tonight is, sorry, Kirsty, but we're going to meet in person and do Zoom at the same time, because it's so wonderful to have people from so far away joining us. So I think, you know, if we do live events, we need to actually include everybody as well. So we'll be working on that in the future. Again, Mike Smith, will be without you. Total love. So thank you very, very much for coming. Enjoy your evening, and hope you enjoy the read. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Meridian.
Bye.
Bye. Good night. Bye.